I am going to generate a series of YouTube videos on how to fix digital images with Photoshop and Lightroom. This class is completed. Start from the very basics and take it all the way to where your creativity is absolutely unleashed. So come walk with me down your creative photography path. So, what are the objectives of this course series? We're going to teach you how to edit images that look exactly like what you saw with your eyes, and you will get some understanding of why coming out of the camera it doesn't look that way. Or we're going to show you the pathway to create photo art. Now, I have an opinion that if it doesn't look like what you saw with your eyes, it is no longer photography, it is photo art. You can agree or disagree with me, but that's Peter's opinion and Peter's word usage. So the first step, you need to have the software. So the cheapest option is the Adobe Photography Plan. And there's a link to that in the slide and below. You may agree or disagree on the use of Lightroom or other software. What I teach you in this class is probably very applicable to using other photo editing software. You just need a different menu structure to figure out how to do it. So once you do the subscription, you're going to download Creative Cloud. And when you download this, that will allow you to download your software from the program. You have Lightroom and Photoshop. And if you enable beta, you can get the beta versions of Photoshop. So now you've got on your PC the Photoshop and the Lightroom software. Couple things to help you along is camera settings to make best use of the software and image adjustment capabilities. Set your camera to save your data as raw data. You can also save it as JPEG large, but your editing should start with raw data. The next thing you should do is set your camera display options to color channel histograms and highlight warnings. The procedures vary from camera manufacturer to camera manufacturer, so I suggest you search for that on YouTube and see how to set that on your specific camera. Why do we do this? JPEG has 256 steps from black to white. If your camera supports 12-bit RAW, that's 4,000 steps, or 14-bit RAW, that's 16,000 steps. And that extra data and extra smaller and smaller steps is going to help you create a better image. And where it really has a maximum impact is if you're operating close to too bright or close to too dark of the image. So with RAW, you can pull out more information on your dark or light areas. I suggest before you export your files from Lightroom or Photoshop, you do as much of the adjustments in whichever is the first one you use, whether you start with Lightroom or start with Photoshop. And you get it tweaked as much as you can in that software, because When you export it, the default is JPEG, which throws out all that extra data. And it also loses more data because JPEG is a compression process and it loses information. If you take the JPEGs from Lightroom, then they're only 8-bit JPEG files, so you've lost a ton of data. Now, some people export images from Lightroom as a TIFF or PSD files to prevent this loss. It creates monster file sizes. And so when all editing is done, save the edited JPEG for prints and web. And if you don't think you'll ever go back and edit, I've been burned by that one, you can then delete your raw data files. A big warning: learn how to use the histogram. Be diligent in exposure selection because you cannot get anything back from black or almost black pixels, and you cannot get anything useful back from white or almost white pixels. Very important is to calibrate your monitor. Now, if you get serious, you're going to spend some money on a monitor calibration procedure. This way, you know your color is right, your intensity is right, and you're much more likely to get what you see on the screen is what you're going to get in prints. Understand Facebook plays with your files and they do not come out as they look on your screen.
First and most critical step of any proper image management workflow is to have a calibrated display, a calibrated monitor. Now, some computers will come with software that says here we can use this to fine-tune your display and you eyeball it and click things that are red and green, blue, whatever. But the only way to truly get a properly calibrated monitor without any bias is to use a hardware device called a colorimeter. Now I have one right here. This particular colorimeter is a Spyder, S-P-Y-D-E-R, but there's lots of different brands. You can get different ones. But as long as you've got a hardware device to accurately read the colors from your display, you can produce what's called a monitor profile. Now, why is this important? Well, it turns out that every monitor is told by your computer to display a certain red, green, blue RGB value. But not every monitor will produce the same color. There's going to be variation. And this shows up in the form of color casts. You might have a greenish cast, a bluish cast, whatever. The problem is our eyes are so good at compensating for color casts that we just don't notice them. So we need an unbiased hardware device to look at the colors that are produced when the computer tells the monitor to display a particular RGB value. If it finds differences between what is coming out of the display and what it was told to produce, the software that comes with the colorimeter is going to produce what's called a monitor profile. Think of it like eyeglasses for your computer screen. This is going to allow it to properly render colors on your screen no matter what image you provide it. Once your monitor is calibrated, you're going to have a standardized baseline to make for all of your images.
So here's the two most popular calibrations, which is the Data Color Spyder or the Color Monkey. Those are both available. Now, an alternate is to get this file or a similar file and look at it. Do you see all the steps? Does the dress look white? Do the colors look normal? The facial tones may, in this reference image, which I got from mpix.com, the faces are a little bit red. But this will tell you how close to properly calibrated you are. So it is recommended that the top of the screen is about at eye height. And the screen should be tilted to achieve about a perpendicular viewing angle, or you are going to be, the screen is going to be straight up and down. So you're looking at a 90 degree to your screen.
If you're a laptop user, it's easy to have a really bad posture. Usually our laptop is lower than our eye level, so we have tendency to look down, which puts a lot of strain on our neck, on our back, and over time can give a lot of problems. Right now you can try sitting up straight. You feel really energized, you feel alive, whereas if you slouch over, you feel a lot more lethargic. So it's really important to consciously try to keep a good posture. A great solution to it is to invest in a laptop stand, an external keyboard, and a mouse. It's a small investment, will have huge returns on your productivity and will also save you some back pains down the road.
Where are the files going to be stored on your hard drive? How are you going to rename files on import so the name has some kind of clue as to content? How are you going to name edited files? I don't recommend saving it as the identical file. I normally append it as an A, B, or C, or have a separate folder that the edited files are saved in. Are you going to back up your files? Now, the next thing is input device. What are you going to use to edit? I personally have trained myself to use a mouse. I've had a student that actually edited on her touchpad. It worked for her. And then they have a tablet, a Wacom style tablet that has a pen that the people who do a lot of editing swear by. I swore at it, so I don't use it because there's a tremendous learning curve on that. Okay, so now what's next step? Go out and take pictures. This instruction is all about fixing pictures. Well, you need pictures to fix. So just go out. I thank you for taking your time. I welcome you to this class that is going to be informative and I hope fun to learn all the amazing things that you can do with photo editing, creating all kinds of very interesting process. And I am going to start this training, as a friend of mine called it, Barney style. And so I'm going to start, the initial lectures are going to be very simple. Like, how do you get photos into Lightroom? How do you get photos into Photoshop? And then take off little bite-sized pieces of the various editing techniques that you need to create your desired outcome. I thank you. I strongly suggest that you like and subscribe to this series because over the months, I hope to continue to create these lessons and teach you how to be skilled in photo editing using Adobe software. Thank you.